Received several questions about astrology, and I thought that I could dedicate this vlog to explain why astrology is nonsense. Astrology is the belief that the apparent position of some astronomical object in the sky at the time of birth influence a person's character and can predict their future. There are many reasons why astrology is not real, so let's analyze a few. Western astrology was born in the 3rd century BCE and is a mixture of Babylonian and Egyptian astrology mixed with Hellenistic beliefs. Using the position of the sun and the planets in relation to special constellations, they construct natal charts to make prediction. They're what we call horoscopes. These charts are what astrologers still use to make daily horoscopes, and they're based on a universe where the sun and the planet orbit around the Earth, and only 5 planets exist. Belief in astrology implies belief in having the Earth at the center of the universe. My second point is related to the zodiac. Constellations are mostly made by independent stars that carry the resemblance of a real object. This phenomenon is called pareidolia, and is the reason why this gas canister looks like a grandma caterpillar applying lipstick. Stars and constellations are very far apart, and if we change our point of view, the entire design and meaning we give them cease to be correct. With your naked eye in great condition, you can see about 3,000 stars in the sky. In our galaxy alone, there are 100 billion stars, and there are 100 billion galaxies in the known universe. So there's no reason why this handful of stars should be in any way special in the great scheme of things. Another logical fact that is proved astrology is the relation between any human and other bodies in the solar system. Followers of astrology believe that the planets influence our lives, so scientifically speaking, they need to exert a force on us. I'm going to quantify it in a second, but just so you know, the force that a planet or even the sun exert on you is the same as the force you exert on them. Third principle of dynamics. So let's pick the sun, since it's the biggest object in the solar system, holding 99.86% of its mass. So the force for a 7-kilogram person is equal to 0.431 Newton, which is 1,700 smaller than the force we receive from the Earth. How about Jupiter, the biggest planet on the solar system? Even at its shorter distance from Earth, the force that Jupiter exerts is 10 to the 32 times smaller than the gravity that we get from the Earth. Lastly, and ironically, astrology has no predictive power. I'm not simply talking about the ability to divine the future, but the ability to explain phenomena we see happening. For all scientific discipline to be considered valid, they need to possess predictive power, and I would argue that a good deal of predictive powers need to be involved in the arts too. Not simply technical, if I mix yellow and blue paint I get green, but the ability of an artist to transmit a certain emotion with a play, a story, or sculpture. Astrology can't do that. Astrology doesn't have an explanation on why planets and stars influence humans, historical events, or the weather. It has been proven in several studies, such as the experiment conducted by Zarka in 2011, that astrology is equivalent to random chance when predicting events or personalities. I can hear people arguing that they only check horoscopes ironically, or that it's just harmless fun. But it's not. Recently, a member of the British Health Committee, David Tredennick, wants to use astrology in the national health system. He wants to use nonsense to cure people. Even smart people don't often realize that astrology is completely fictional. I was at a party surrounded by medical doctors, and being the odd doctor out, they asked me about my PhD. Eventually, someone asked me if I believed in astrology. When I went on about all the reasons why it's garbage, they interrupted me by saying, "Why does it matter if people use astrology in their lives?" I rebutted, "Would you use phrenology to diagnose a patient?" And they looked at me as though comparing discredited medical practice to astrology was like comparing apples to planets. If people that have power over other people's lives make decisions based on daily nonsense written by frauds, then they need to be educated. Although I understand the evolutionary need behind the belief of written destiny, I can't quite understand why anyone would pick something like astrology, which has been debunked for 400 years especially since it requires that the believer relinquish the ability to make their own choices in life. Maybe it would be easier to blame my many mistakes on a supernatural force, but I own them as mine like my few successes. Shakespeare said it first: "The fault, dear Brutus, is not in our stars, but in ourselves."